Welcome to the Swipe Right Effect podcast, where we will be sharing with you the power to get unstuck by swiping right on yourself. Your host, author C.K. Collins, aka Kelly, gets personal with her guests, sharing stories of themselves getting unstuck with wisdom and guidance. Where do you feel stuck? Are you waiting to get your new life started after a big change? You've come to the right place. So with that said, let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Swipe Right Effect. I'm C.K. Collins, aka Kelly. And today we are joined by Julie DeAnne. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her, but we're going to have some fun conversation today. Thanks for coming, Julie.
Thank you, Kelly. It's a joy to be here.
So Julie has worked with kids of all ages off and on throughout her various careers. It has only been in the past few years that Julie seriously began adapting her knowledge and skills in the best health, meditation, and breathwork practices to apply to children. The book and program she created were born from years of intense exploration and study. Sharing her experiences while bringing these life-changing practices into classroom has become Julie's mission. It's a good mission.
Thank you.
So Julie, I know one of the titles that you call yourself is, I know you're a certified life transformation coach, but you also call yourself an Illumination guide. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. That was something that took me a bit to come up with because I wanted to say something that was more than a coach, more than a consultant, because I don't feel like I'm really either one of those. What I see myself is just someone who is guiding other people, children and adults both, to just recognize that each one of us has this light within us. And it's our job here on earth to let that light shine. And the way that we do that is by going within, taking our time within, connecting to our heart center and discovering what is that purpose? What is it that really lights us up in the world? And then sharing it. Because, people say you have a gift for something, you have to discover what your gift is. And the reason it's called a gift is because it's for you to give. It's your gift to the world. You are that gift. And so let's illuminate it and shine it out.
I love that. That's so great. Wow.
Thank you.
Light within. I love it. So your gift to the world is this passion about getting meditation or the practice of that into schools, and even more than that, but just to have it a name and something that the kids can use, and I really find it fascinating. I mean, so much your passion, you actually did a TED talk about it, TEDx talk, I guess.
Yes.
So
yes, I was kind of developing this practice, right? This morning mindfulness practice that both adults and children could do that can boost self-confidence and create this can-do attitude and can be done in like 5 minutes or less. And I was like, how do we get this message out there? Everybody knows that meditation, okay, step back. Most people recognize nowadays there's enough research out there that proves meditation is beneficial across the board. A lot of studies about adults, even teenagers, not as many studies on children, but if it's good for adults, I mean, you can by, extrapolation, yes, it's good for kids too. And there's a growing body of research that supports that. I wanted to make sure that this message gets out there, that the best way, I believe, is not just for people at home, but in schools, because every child is required to go to school. And so if every child is doing this every day with their peers, it's going to become a habit, a lifelong habit. And that's awesome because the whole world is going to benefit. And it seemed to me that I needed a way to get this message out. And then I had seen this ad a couple of times about, TEDx, the big stage. If you have a big message, you need a big stage. And so I thought, that's my ticket. That's what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I don't quite know that I realized what I was getting into when I did it, but I am so grateful that I did, that I took that leap. I took the plunge. I have Thought Leader to thank for that, Taylor Conroy, and Thought Leader, the whole group, because I joined their training. They helped me with the practices. I was able to land a stage in Greensboro, North Carolina, and bam, a year later, about last November is when I delivered that talk. It went live on YouTube in February, and it's more and more people are viewing it, and I'm just thrilled. I think it really helped me refine my message and get it out there. And so now I know that this is something that people resonate with, that is effective, and it is doable. We can do this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, one of the things that really kind of blew my mind was you were in the TED Talk, you were talking about a school that had implemented doing meditation over, I think it was 4-year period.
Yeah.
And they had a 70% decrease in suspensions. And the positive of, that happened was, attendance was up and grades were up. And I think,
right.
If you think, okay, that's for the kids and that's great. But I mean, when I think about all of us adults who are stressed and, having health issues or can't sleep at night. I mean, the equivalent of that in adult is, those very important just life essentials of sleep and rest and peace of mind kind of thing. And
yeah,
so I think that that's pretty amazing. But so tell us about the time within. That's something that you came up with on your own. I think it's so sharp and very memorable. So tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. So when I was drafting the talk and I was trying to think about how to talk about meditation without saying meditation, because some people have preconceived notions about that, or they're just, by default opposed to it. Other people, prayer, some people are religious, some aren't. I wanted to be able to reach the widest audience and not alienate anyone, and help everyone to realize that every single person has these tools within us. Every single one of us is capable of doing it anywhere, anytime. We just need to be taught how. And so in doing research, something had come up. Amy McCready had talked in her positive parenting solutions training about teaching kids a time in. And so, as opposed to the timeout, right? And we all know the timeouts don't really work. The kids going in the corner, they're isolated, and they're just feeling bad usually. And that's not really helpful. It's a punishment. So the time in is obviously when you're going with the child and you're talking them through the problem, you're working through it, you're trying to model better behavior, and that's important. And we all need to do that, and we know that. But what if we were to take this a step further? And we teach them how to do the time within. So now you're taking the concept of the time in, but instead of the parent or teacher always having to be there and talk with the student, the child is now starting to learn, I have these tools like controlling my breath work. And incidentally, Dr. Libby Weaver notes that the only thing that science has proven that actually calms the body down instantly is focusing on deep, slow breathing and extending the exhalation. That's what you have to do. You have to breathe in deeply and extend the exhalation, and that will instantly calm the body. And once your body is calm, you can think more clearly. Your thoughts get, calm down, and then you're able to make a better decision. And because you start to feel better, you're taking the body out of that fight or flight, that nervous angst, and you're telling the body, okay, we're okay here. Everything, we're safe. Let's just calm down and take stock of what's going on. And then let's make a more educated decision. So that's what it's about. And teaching children that they can do this, that they can actually choose their thoughts. Their thoughts aren't running them. They get to choose their thoughts. Choosing a better thought changes how you feel, because thoughts produce feelings in the body. And these feelings, when we label them, they become an emotion. An emotion is simply energy in motion. It's the energy from the thought that's now manifesting as a feeling in the body. And so, another neat tidbit here is what's the difference between fear and excitement? To the body, they're both experienced exactly the same. Your palms get sweaty, your heart races, you get jittery, you get hyper focused. Well, whether it's fear or excitement, the body's still feeling the same. It's only your thought. It's how you decide to label those feelings in your body. If you decide that jumping off the high dive is scary, then it's going to be fearful. But if you decide that this is fun, I'm going to be flying, then it's excitement.
Gonna be flying.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So change your thoughts and you change your emotions.
Yes.
I love that.
And so, right, if kids learn that all they have to do is focus on the breathing and focus on changing their thoughts, and then having some pre-programmed thoughts in there, right? Like, have them start saying, hey, every time I get anxious or scared, I say, I am safe, I am safe, I'm enough, I'm lovable, everything is always working out for me. The more that you do this and you literally are programming your mind, the easier it gets, and the more you start to raise that baseline so that you feel that way more often. And then you're not going to feel as anxious, at different times. You're have less of those experiences.
Yeah, I know we were talking before we started recording about how we both really learned about meditation through yoga, but it wasn't, it was just something that we did at yoga. It wasn't something we practiced at home. And so hearing you say I'm enough, I mean, that when I first realized I was getting divorced and, everything hit the fan,
Yep.
that was how I started meditating. Was I would say, I am enough. I am more than enough. I am enough. I am more than enough. That was how I got through those moments where my mind was in a spin. And I think, gosh, I was 52 years old when I learned that. If somebody had taught me that as a child, I can't imagine how different my life would have been, because I was such a go-getter and such a busy person. But when you live at that pace, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with it. And feeling I was the oldest child in my family, there was a lot of responsibility and anxiety with that. And so, I mean, heck, just when you have your first baby, if I had known how to meditate, that would have been really helpful to keep me sane. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's important. And we'll definitely have your information in the show notes. But I think every parent or even every grandparent who hears this should, think about approaching their school. No, don't think about it. You should approach your schools about doing this, because I just can't imagine how different my life would have been. And how, just a little more peaceful. I would have been able to handle stress better. I could have taught my children that instead of them having anxiety, so it could be a life-changing thing for every school, every childhood, every parent, to just start practicing it with their child.
Honestly.
Yeah. Cause that's kind of, you started doing that with your child. I know you told the story in the TED Talk, and because there had been some incidences at school, and then you, with your daughter, wrote a book called Which Would You Choose? And I love that you did that together. But explain how you had the scenarios in the book. Explain that a little bit.
When I was meditating, I actually got inspired to write that book. And the book would be like the first piece to help kids have something tangible, and teachers and parents too, so that they could spark discussion on how do you become aware of these thoughts, and then how do you change them. So the scenarios I had based a lot on incidents that had happened in my daughter's school back when she was younger. And the one in particular that I do mention in the talk is when one of the kids, well, this was just a story. It was from a while back, but at one point in elementary school, one of the kids had gotten so upset that they'd actually thrown something and it had hit another kid. And then, the whole classroom had to be evacuated because it just kept going on, and it was getting worse and worse. To me, and I feel for the parents and the teachers, the other kids. I mean, and that child more than anything. What if that child had been taught these tools? What if that child had been meditating every day? All the kids. I mean, that never would have happened. And I did start working with my daughter and having her do the routine and everything, and she was getting a lot of benefit. In fact, it's funny because at night we would start doing just the breath work, and it would help her go to sleep. And at first she was a little resistant, and then she started asking me to do it, and it was amazing. I loved it. She was giving me feedback. And it's been very helpful, and it's something that I encourage her to do all the time. As she's gotten older, her life has gotten busier, and she's like changing, like she's becoming a teenager now. So things are a little different in how parents and kids kind of have their differences, right? So it's one of those things different. That I'm hoping that as she gets older, I mean, I'm still doing it every day. So she sees that and she knows that. And I do know that she has counseled, she has given advice to her friends to do this. So I hold that as promising, but I'm hoping that she will start doing it more and more, because it is so helpful. And it's just overall, resetting the baseline and helping kids to make better decisions. She has, her mood and everything has improved. And, but I'm sorry, you'd asked about the book. So the scenarios are based on like everyday things that kids tend to deal with. You go into the classroom and you're scared to raise your hand, or maybe somebody makes a comment about your outfit and it's not very nice, or somebody's having a birthday party and you realize you weren't invited. How are you going to choose to react in these situations? And maybe not choose to react, but choose to respond instead. So I have 2 columns where you have the negative thoughts versus the positive thoughts, and realizing in the end, you're the same person, but do you want to take the hard, difficult road, or do you want to take the more fun, lighthearted road? It's up to you.
Right. Yep. Change your thoughts, change your emotions.
Yeah. And get different results. And at any point, you can switch. You could be going down that negative path. And then if you use a right technique, if you think about your thoughts and you say, you know what, I'm going to flip that switch. I choose something else. I choose not that. And there are several techniques that I call them brave thinking principles. That's based on the Mary Morrissey Brave Thinking Institute. And I infuse those into the book as well.
I love that. Brave thinking.
Yes.
Well, and it seems like one of the clues or the success that, teaching the kids this is also about, making it fun and making it something that they would want to do. And I'm just thinking, how can you do that for adults? How can we make it fun so that they want to do it? Because you and I know it changed our lives. Like, I know it changed my life. And I try to talk about it on every podcast, but it is it's a life skill. If you could learn it from a child on, it'd be awesome. But even 40-year-olds to 60-year-olds, if they've never tried it, can get so much out of it. And I like guided meditations. And so for me, that's how I make it fun. Because I'll do ones that are about the ocean, because I've recently moved to live by the ocean, and it was always a dream of mine. So for years I was listening to guided meditations that were about that, walking on the sand or swimming in the water, or feeling the sun on me, and so I think that's how, I guess I just made it fun for me. But how do you make meditation fun for kids?
Well, I have to say, I'm going to follow in your footsteps, because I love the ocean and the ocean sound, and I want to live where I can see the ocean and go walk on it every day if I want. So eventually I'll get there. But I think that is one of the beauties of meditation. There are so many different types of meditation out there. There's so many free apps. People talk all the time about the Calm app, CALM. Yes. There are all kinds of different meditations on there, but just on YouTube. I mean, you can YouTube meditation, or I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has several on there. Also, Jess Shepherd, she has a beautiful voice. She has a meditation that I do almost every morning, just because I love the music and I love her voice and what she says.
Mm.
And then there's several others. Marissa Peer, that whole I am enough, that is her entire the basis for everything that she teaches. And I've taken her training. She has wonderful meditations. But if you just look online and just find something, try different things. There's the meditations where you stare at a candle, or the meditation where you're just listening to some soft music, or the guided meditation. There's all kinds like that. There's meditations where you can just repeat a word in your head, that just something that is just a non-word, right? It could just be a made up thing, something that doesn't have any sort of emotional charge to it, so that you can basically just allow yourself to be in silence and peace and just be. And that's what we don't do as humans nowadays in today's society, or at least here in America, we don't seem to understand that it's okay to just be. And something I think that I just realized the other day, a lot of kids, have you ever said this? I just zoned out. I just, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I just zoned out for a second. I honestly think that is the body's way of forcing us to literally like meditate, just be silent, just be still for a second. Because so many of us don't do that on a daily basis, that every now and then the body's like, we gotta reset. I mean, my daughter just said it the other day, and I was thinking, I think that's what it is. I mean, that's just my own opinion, but
yeah, that's really interesting.
So, yeah, and I think it's just so important for all of us to do this.
Yeah. You said something earlier about how we deal with emotional overwhelm and the feedback loop. And I know you've studied energy healing and all this in meditation, and you've done a lot to prepare yourself for this role that you've created. And when you're in that feedback loop, what do you recommend for reconnecting to like your inner calm and your well-being? Like, what do you tell the kids so that adults can learn too?
Right. So there's a couple. I think the most important thing to start with is catching yourself in that thought and just saying stop. And in that moment, you may or may not know to say, like, there's this one technique I like to do this. I like to say stop. I choose not that. I choose joy, love, and freedom. And then I replace it with, whatever was going on. So if I was going down the route of, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my bills. I might lose the house. You go down this negative spiral and say, stop. No. I choose joy, love, and freedom. I'm figuring this out. Everything is working out for my highest good. Everything always works out for my highest good and for the highest good of all. You can replace it with some sort of a phrase that calms you down and makes you feel better. And for the kids, they could say whatever phrase they want, but I would also say the first thing you need to do is say stop and just inhale, take a deep breath in, hold it at the top for at least a few counts, you can count in your head, and then exhale through the mouth, preferably like you're blowing out birthday candles or through a straw. They like that. It's fun. It's for adults too, but extend that exhale, extend it for like almost twice as long as the inhale, and do that 3 to 5 times. I guarantee you're going to feel calmer instantly. And at that moment, then you can start to choose, what is it? What would I love here? That's the great question to ask. What would I love? And let go of any preconceived notions or any doubts, any objections. Just what would I love? Focus on that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And albeit something that's, not going to harm anybody, but
right. Another thing we have that you said earlier was talking about the power to choose. And a lot of this is about that, like choosing to go into a time within, choosing your thoughts so that you're choosing your emotions. And that's one of the first things I say in my book is if you're, in this bad place because of a divorce or the loss of a loved one, a loss of a job, a health scare, whatever, it's still in your power. You have the power to choose to not feel this way anymore. And that there's just, but if you don't make a choice, that's a choice too.
Exactly.
You're choosing to stay right where you are. You're choosing to live in fear or pain or anger, whatever. And so I think it's amazing that, you want to teach children that they have the power to choose their emotions, because I think we all feel powerless sometimes in that situation.
Growing up, I used to literally tell myself, you think too much. You think too much. Okay, just stop thinking. Because my thoughts were constantly racing. It was just like an endless runaway train. And I felt like I could never get a break.
Yeah.
And then, like with the emotions, I remember hearing other people and actually kind of buying into this myself. Well, you can't help it. You feel that way, and you can't help how you feel. And something never quite sat right with me when I would hear that. I was like, is that true? Is that true? And so I was so glad when I finally realized, I was like, it's true at all.
Yeah.
We are not victims of our emotions, and we are not victims of our thoughts either, unless we choose to be so, or unless we just don't realize the power that we have to take that back and to actually choose those thoughts. And again, it's our thoughts that dictate our emotions or dictate our feelings. So you have to choose a better thought if you're not feeling right. And something else I realize is we're here on earth to feel and experience everything. And our emotions, we have emotional intelligence, and it's just as important as our mind intelligence. And that's why it's a feedback loop, because the emotions are telling us what we're thinking. And if we don't like what we're feeling, we got to change what we're thinking. It all starts with a thought, but we are here to feel it. So the anger and the fear and the doubt, they have a role to play. They're important because they keep us safe. They keep us on our toes, alert to possible dangers. And they also are designed to kind of, again, keep us in the status quo, because that's keeping us alive. But the bigger emotions, the love, the forgiveness, the compassion, the joy, all of that overrides it all. And that's why we have this capacity to say, okay, I see you fear, I see you pain, or even doubt or hatred. I see what you're telling me, and I'm telling you, I'm choosing this. It's okay. We're going here. I'm going to take that calculated risk, and I'm going to make this decision, and we're going to do this. And that's what, and sometimes we say, okay, I think you're right. Maybe I shouldn't go down this path right now. But I think it's very interesting if we understand it is important to feel these emotions, because how can we really know what joy feels like if we don't know what desperation and depression feels like?
Right. Yeah. I write about in my book, I write quite a bit about anger and forgiveness. And, I say anger can be a good thing. It's how you choose to utilize it. It is what made me go leave the situation that was causing me pain. I got mad.
Yeah.
And so I left, but then I found this amazing life and joy and happiness because I had that anger, because it was the catalyst to make me move, to make me walk away after 6 years of pain, and so that was my flight, or probably more my fight and my flight. But I think the shift in energy from that time where I was in pain and bad things were happening to the energy that I have now, it's a completely different energy. It's like I have been healed, or it's not like it. I have. And when I think about the difference that overall would happen in the world if we taught our children to how to stay calm and how to have more positive emotions, how to not hurt others by controlling your emotions. I mean, nobody's going to be perfect, and there's always going to be situations at home where children, are learning hard things. But the energy, overall healing energy that a school or even a single classroom would experience by that negative behavior being gone and the fear being gone. And it's okay. Like you said earlier, it's okay to raise my hand. It's okay to ask a question. And that just the whole overall energy would shift. Can't even imagine. It would be good.
Yes. That's
You
awesome.
are an illumination guide.
Yay!
All right, Julie, we're running out of time. So I have to ask you my last question.
All right.
What feeds your soul?
What really lights me up and feeds my soul is serving others. Serving others in a way that is enhancing, that is expansive, that allows me to give, but also together we both expand. We become more illuminated. We become better people. We learn and we grow. And that's what I really love. And honestly, I think every single one of us is here to do that, to discover how can you enhance the lives of others? What is it about you that is expansive, that can light up and illuminate you and the other person and create, a better world for all? But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love connecting this.
That's why we became coaches, right?
Sure.
It's our life purpose now, and it's what feeds our soul. And so we go and try to help people.
Yes.
Right. There is no try. There's only do. We do go help people.
Exactly. There is no try, only do.
Yoda. Do or not do. There is no try.
There's no try. Right.
I just learned that recently. I didn't know that little saying. I love it.
One of my favorite quotes.
Now. If I hear myself say try, I correct it.
Awesome.
Well, Thank you, Julie, so much. I'm so glad that we connected and we were able to have this conversation. I've learned a lot today, and that's why I do this, because I want to learn and I want to bring my listeners along with me. So thank you.
Likewise. Thank you. This has been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
Two Southern girls talking about energy and meditation. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Oh gosh. Well, all right, listeners, thanks for listening in, and we'll catch up with you next Wednesday.
Kelly's book is available on Amazon and through your local bookstores. Look for the Swipe Right Effect, the power to get unstuck. Kelly's interviews with 10 friends from around the world unlock powerful truths to getting your new life started.